Our guest for today's episode is Nitish Yadav. He is a product and type designer and is currently researching on typography for augmented reality and future interfaces. He has graduated from NIFT Delhi, University of Reading in typeface design and is currently working as a product designer at Headout. I am Mayank Khandelwal and you are listening to Whiteboard.fm. Hey Nitish, welcome to Whiteboard.fm. How are you doing?
Pretty good, man. Really excited for this.
Nice, nice. Are you in Bangalore or are you staying
No,
somewhere else right now?
right now I moved back to Dehradun for now
Oh,
because
nice.
the weather is nice and that's where my home is.
Awesome, awesome. Great, Nitish. Let's get started. Can you introduce yourself?
Sure, I think I'll start with my official kind of introduction. So basically, yeah, I am a product designer who's working at Headout right now. So basically, what my job right now as a product designer there is kind of making our travelers' life easier to just find experiences and like just be a wanderer and then find like the best places to visit. So I think that's the official my title which is there. So apart from that, I think the main thing which we have like come here to talk about would be the my unofficial title, which is like product slash type designer. So yeah, I'm a type designer as well, and then almost so the slightly interesting part which I do, which kind of interests people, is that I've been researching on typography and the new interfaces for AR headsets. So I think yeah, that's it. Like basically, that would be my short introduction.
Awesome, awesome. So, Nitish, how did you get started in design?
So in that, so I think that would be a slightly okay. As I'd already told you that I'm not from Bangalore, and then I'm from a small city called Dehradun, which is like it's a valley. And then basically, when I so this is kind of a typical Indian story where it goes like, okay, you clear your 12th, and then you goes like the streams. If you're a styling student, which I was, there were only two streams for you. Either you go for medical or you go for engineering. So I think because there was no design awareness at that point of time, like in there. So I'm talking about like 2009. And
Right.
then, so again, in that case, so what happened with me, like I went to that same kind of herd mentality because I didn't know about any options. So in that point of time, like I appeared for my engineering exams, I cleared them, and then I started engineering. So at a later stage, when I like got to college, and then I was working on different kind of clubs and all those things. So in that case, what happened was I slowly got to know more about design, and then so I designed the prospectus for the upcoming year. So that was like kind of one project, which was small project which I did. So in that case, like that's how I kind of got introduced to like how design as a career can is a big thing, like at a global level, but still at Indian level, that was nothing. Nobody like
Yeah.
even so the moment you say like a designer, that means people just assume you to be an artist or something like that. So that was a kind of stage at that point of time. So like over time, like I started learning on my own, like yeah, though I was focusing on my engineering studies. But again, then I, because since beginning I've been very much into creative stuff rather than being towards like academic side. So that's when I thought like, okay, maybe that's good, but still I really want to do pursue design as a career. So yeah, somehow I managed to convince my parents that I want to drop out, which turned out well. So it's not as simple as it seems right now, as I'm saying.
Yeah.
So so yeah, after 1.5 year, I kind of dropped out from my engineering studies. Then what I started doing was, that was kind of my point of like I started designing. I started as a self-taught designer. I started working on quite a lot of projects, and then to be honest, like my first commission project, which was a major project, was a website for this Canadian like secondhand website seller for like all the cars and automotive like trucks and all, based out of Canada. So that was my first major project, and then that's how like I started building my clients, and then that's how I started getting projects. And then yeah, I think that would be the basic entry into the design phase for me.
That's great. That's great. And from there, you moved to, you started studying in at NIFT.
No,
at Neft
in
Delhi?
between, what happened was, this is like, I think there was a gap. So I was working on different kind of projects, but then again, this is kind of, I'll just sweep in a bit of story, because that will be a context in terms of like why I did what I did. So basically, at that point of time, again, it becomes like, okay, so once I started learning about design on my own, so it was like being a self-taught designer. Like I was searching for all the information online. I was learning, and then I realized like one of the most interesting part which I really liked was research. Though I really like designing interfaces, I really like designing the visual aesthetics part. But again, research was something like which got me into it. So what was happening was, since I was very much into research, that I realized, okay, I want to do research. And then one of the major thing, like if I don't have a bachelor's degree, then I can't go for research. Either it's master's, or if I really want to do PhD at a later stage, then there was no option for me. So in that case, like I was thinking that. And then another fact was, again, coming back to that whole basic thinking of Indian parents, they want you to have a degree. So that was another reason, which was like, okay, I need to have a bachelor's degree. And then, but so what I did was, I appeared for all the design exams, all the major colleges, cleared all of those. And then I was like, one of the major thing was, okay, I had this. So once you get into the phase of like earning money on your own and all those kind of things, so making a decision to just like leave everything aside and then studying is slightly, okay, that's a harder decision. So what I decided, okay, like I won't go to any specific colleges, just for one reason, because I wanted a college in Delhi. And then because so by that time I had made quite a good amount of clients which were from Delhi, and then there were studios from Delhi with whom I was working from Dehradun itself. So I was like, oh, it would be a great move that like my college is there in Delhi, and then like side by side, at least basically college was side, but yeah,
Yeah.
the basic thinking was like side by side I can work on projects. So that's how I like decided, okay, I'll go for NEF. And then like that's how I started like my studies there.
Nice. That's so smart. Like you want to continue with the side projects, but then you also want to make sure you're getting the college done because of the formality that is there in India, at least, that okay, you need to have
Mhm.
a bachelor's degree. Like once you decided that okay, you want to get into NIFT, and you decided studying at NIFT, what made you decide that you want to do a bachelor's in graphic design and typography?
Okay, so in that case, like, so my major in NIF was like fashion communication, which I like at the end, I was much more interested in the communication part and the like design part. So because that's what I was doing most of my time, like as my like all my industry projects and then my client projects were those. So in the first year, like it was a intensive thing where it's almost like, okay, one of the reasons like I credit NIFT as well, where like we like in India, we all know like the design standard in terms of like what is going in the global space versus what our curriculums are there in these colleges is not up to date.
Right.
So so in like in college space, like my I was way ahead of like curriculum because I was already delivering projects which were real life projects. But again, one of the like benefits which I got, or one of the things which NIB gave me was in the first year, it was like there was like in first semester you work on a lot on the foundational stuff, which is like your basic rules, basic kind of like how design works and all those kind of things, which if you're self-learning happens, you learn those things. But again, in terms of application, in terms of convincing people, okay, like why, because you in juries you have to convince your like mentors, your teachers, like okay, why I've done that. So in that case, like I think that was a good point of shift for me, like it's almost like it was not client thing, it was much more conversational thing. And then like slowly I started doing lettering, and then that's how I got really interested. Okay, lettering, what is the basis of lettering?
Nice. That's great actually. Like you slowly and steadily you found your interest, and one big factor for you was that you were well versed with how design works in the industries or in the agencies, which is why you had sort of a upper hand, so as to say. From NIFT, then you went to you went for your MA in typography and
Yeah.
typeface design at the University of Reading. Can you tell us more about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I think there is a missing part between that. So after graduating from NIFT, I did like I was a product designer at Paytm, and then
Okay.
so in that point of time, what happened was, okay, I wanted to do like research in typography, and then that whole journey was not that straightforward. Again, I was supposed to join college by in 2018. but because the whole space was much more like I was very so since college only, like basically graphic design has been there, but what I have been much more interested is in emerging tech. So Google Glass came in at that point of time, like in
Right.
2016, and before that, like there was a whole talk going on. So I was a nerd in that space. Like any new emerging tech which is coming in, I have to learn about it. I have to just try whatever is happening. So if I talk about my college projects as well, like there has to be like, okay, if it is just like basic kind of assignment, then I'll use these kind of things. So in that case, what happened was at that point of time, okay, I got into these emerging tech kind of thing, and then I decided like I want to like first like my interest was in emerging tech. Second, like typography was becoming very deep embedded in what I really wanted to do, and then design was one string which was there. So while I was working at Paytm, then I applied for like my masters, which was supposed to be like I was supposed to join college in 2018, but like just because this whole thing was happening, so I got my admission like so first I decided, okay, like I got in 2017 itself. I decided, okay, I'll just like defer my admission to 2018. But again, at that point of time, it was slightly like because MA, if you do MA at Reading, University of Reading, so the students who come in, you won't call them students. Those are like mid-career professionals mostly. So these are the people who are like already like in a very stable state of their career, and then they want to kind of get better at into typography and get research deeper into typography and all those things. And then again, this course is much more like very academic, so research driven course. So it was not for everybody, and then I got slightly like scared of that. So I thought like maybe I'll defer it. So I deferred it to 2018. But in the summer itself, I went to the university for a summer course, and then that's when I had a chat with my director there. And then I asked him like, do you think I'm ready for the course? And then he was like, yeah, you are ready, that's why I accepted your application. So that's how like, so in that case, this is your like July. And then so just imagine like if you're applying for a college abroad, you do all the kind of formalities get done in 6 months. I did all those formalities in 28 days, right from visa application to everything. So it was like, okay, the last day of my Paytm was like one day, and the next day I went home, and then the third day I just flew off India for my course. So yeah, that happened fast, and then yeah, that was the best experience or the best time of my life so far.
Damn. Yeah, like it would have given a completely different kind of a rush. And
Yeah.
yeah, that rush is what keeps it going. As a MA student at the University of Reading, what was your day-to-day life like?
So in that case, I think, as I told you, like it is not as compared to any other like course which is there in terms of design, or any other like a different kind of course which is like towards like science and STEM courses or whatever is that. So in this case, like you would like you can compare the MA at Reading towards much more towards the STEM side, where like science and technology you do like intensive research. So if you're talking about like I want to draw this letter, then you have to justify why that letter is being drawn of that type. So it's like it's not much more towards the design bit. It was like it was designed like basically the course was divided into two sections. One is your basically your typeface design project, which is which was the initial bit, and the second deliverable which was there was your dissertation, which is again like your proper thesis, which like kind of became my major part of the research. So, and in terms of learning, if I say, that's the best kind of learning experience which I had. So if I compare it to learning like across like 10 15 years that I got in just like that small duration of time during my MA. So I think I can compare to that. And then it's not just like that course gave me. So basically, if I compare it to design education, whatever I've experienced, whatever I have had a chat with like different people from different colleges who are the graduates from different colleges, be it in India or be it abroad. So there was a common thing which I realized that that course was totally different, and then that made me realize what design education should be all about. So it's almost like, just imagine like your lectures are not just like somebody coming and delivering a lecture and then going away. It's like two-way lectures, interactive lectures, and then you got to like in my so there were classes in week, in a week where it's almost like one of my favorite teachers used to bring all his collections, which is like these collections are something which museums also don't have. So that kind of collection, that kind of access you have to the collaterals in terms of like design history. So because a lot of books, if you see like which are like related to typography or which are related to design, refer to the archives of University of Reading. So I think that was one of the privilege which I had, that I had all that access. And then every kind of Thursday or Tuesday, I had like we had different seminars which were about different kind of like different kind of design sections. So maybe it's just about forms from like starting from 19 like 1880s. You get to see the physical forms, those physical collections which are already there in the archives, and be it different languages, be it layouts and everything. So I got access to that. So I think that's what, like, if you are spending that kind of money for education, you're not spending it to just get lectures, but to just see tangibly what used to happen, what was the thinking behind those things. So I think that was the best part for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of ecosystem is what sets it apart. And also it's not like the way you mention it, it does not seem like a pretentious or a pseudo ecosystem. It feels very immersive, and
Yeah.
that everyone is so involved in it that you don't see any other external factor, or like it doesn't bother you at all. That's really,
Mhm.
yeah, that's really great. And you also mentioned previously that you were really interested in the upcoming tech, one of them being Google Lens. Is that is the upcoming, like, is the fact that Google Lens had come up during that period, and that you were doing your MA at the University of Reading, that you wanted to do your thesis in typography and AR as well?
Mhm. So in that case, like I told you one thing, like that whole emerging thing started like 2014, 2015. Oculus was released on Kickstarter, and then all those things. So those were like there in back of my mind, like AR and VR is booming, and then I was very interested. So I wanted to, even before going to Reading, I had this in mind that I wanted to work on AR and VR, just because of this fact. Like, okay, this I kind of had a chat with my director that okay, this is the area where I want to research on, and then I'll tell you later on like why that was a harder challenge. So because it was something totally new, so that I already had in mind before going to the university that I wanted to do that. And then one of the reasons being, okay, that was a new space. And then to be honest, like what is better than like writing guidelines for which is not something which is not there. So I think like because it was in your life, once you start working, so there is always a very hard decision that you have to take, which I have taken twice. That right now, look, okay, you're working somewhere, your life is settled, and then everything is going right in the right direction. And then when you are like going for education, then that's basically risk, monetary,
Right.
and your time waste. So in that case, like I wanted to kind of make, so it's a basic greed thing. You just like make yourself think like, okay, I would have to do like the best so that I can like justify myself that I spent that amount of time there. So what I got in return. So either that can be the amount of learning which I got or something I created. So for me, like it's learning plus like what I create. So I think that was one of the kind of very major motivation for me, that I really wanted to do like AR VR typography for AR VR.
That's nice. So how was your experience like when working on the thesis? What challenges did you come across, and what was your experience?
Okay. So yeah, this is an interesting one, and then I think this a lot of people can relate, or like because it's almost like the basic. If I talk about that thing, the infrastructure was not there, even though like University of Reading is a major university in UK. So in that case, like because AR and VR, these are emerging tech, and then but again so I think I would not blame university for this. I would much more blame basically, and then plus I would blame myself as well. I was way ahead of time. That like basically everything is happening in SF. No, like nothing is going out of SF. Nothing is getting released. So in that case, like it's almost like if they can't like acquire those, because HoloLens was also not on sale, and then there was limited availability. It came out in the middle when I was in the middle of the course. But again, like acquiring a unit like which is quite expensive is not that easy. So again, another considerations were like so this is I'm talking about. So I think out of like 100 people that I told my idea about, these I'm talking about the pioneers in the type industry. So to be honest, like nobody paid attention to it. Very few people kind of paid attention to it. And right now also that ignorance is slightly going on, because people think like this technology will not like become mainstream or something like that. But again, one of the person who has always motivated me is my course director, Jerry Leonidas. So I think, yeah, in that case, even a lot of my seniors were also like quite, they were skeptical about it, because the kind of feedback, because you kind of go up to them and then tell them like, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that. But again, they were like, okay, there were people in my batch also like who tried to do something very different. So kind of they were giving practical advices that you will, because since whatever project we take is not just like 1 month project or 2 month project, is a whole year long project. So initial like 6 months you do proper research, then you spend time on designing typefaces for that. So this was a major kind of time investment. So I think they, from their point of view, it was also a sane advice that, okay, a lot of people, if you're working with something very new, a lot of people abandon their projects, and then that time goes to waste or something like that. So I had faced all that kind of skepticism from a lot of people, but there were few people who were like, okay, who were supporting me. And then which kind of so that was a good part. And then the only down point of that was I had to do the whole research ground up. So basically there was no typography based research available for AR VR headset, because nothing like existed before. So what I had to do is I had to go through like, so this is, I'm talking about like December, and then the whole winter vacation, the world was like chilling, and then everybody, so there was no one in the university except for a few people. And then there I was like sitting, like trying to find all the science papers, all the paper in terms of technological advancements, which was like starting from 1960s when Ivan Sutherland, he kind of started with the basic concept of what VR headset can be. So the whole kind of base of the research started with like science-based research, industrial research, then kind of picking up the historical typography-based research, and then clubbing them together to create a base. At least like this is how the idea comes up. So that was a huge task. But again, that turned out to be really well, because I was able to kind of justify each and every point why that, like why this thing was happening, because this was taken from here, why, where this kind of gets justified from typography point of view, that like, okay, there's a basic, so I'll tell you a basic example in this case. So one of the kind of feature which is there in the typefaces which I'm designing is quite inspired from your Bell Centennial, which has like ink traps. So I think you must be like a Figma user, and these days if you open Figma, you see like those. There is a typeface called White, which is being used, which has those kind of very ugly looking. Some people it's ugly looking. For some people it's funky. Whatever word you use, but there are like these engraving inside the letters. So those are like right now they have become like kind of visual factor, but those were something which were functional. So those were designed to kind of trap extra ink. So in that case, like in my typefaces, in the typefaces for AR which I am working on, so now I have converted that functionality. So earlier it was ink. Right now, like in AR, how do we kind of create the typefaces? It's through light. So now those, in my concept, that has become light traps, and then that has like certain functionality to it, is to like avoid the halation. So basically, just imagine there is one light rod, there is another light rod. Wherever the light rods meet, the point which is there is too much light. So that section becomes rounded. So to avoid that, that whole principle came in from the historical research or the historical typography based thing, and then in the basically industrial research, how these kind of basically how it used to look in CRT monitors and all those kind of things. So again, like taking bits and pieces, putting them together, and then coming up with ideas so that I can solve the problem. So basically, this was all about like coming up with this whole new type family which I designed.
This is really interesting, and there is so much that I did not understand, and I would only understand after reading all of it. And I recently came across your website as well that you've updated, and you're showcasing all your work. So, or all those who want to know more about it should definitely check out nitishadav.com. And what one thing I noticed, which I really liked as well, is that you also created a 4-part series on typography and AR design on Medium. And John Lax, the VP of design for AR and VR at Facebook, tweeted it saying that this is the fundamental for typography in AR VR for like so far. Like, how did that feel? How was that?
That was a very huge turning point because after my graduation, what happened was I got a lot of job offers. So, but again, like I was much more interested in continuing. So at least like the phase one of my research, I wanted to like complete it before taking up any job. So at that point of time, like that, I think January I completed that whole thing. Like, and then like from February onward, I started posting about like most of these series. And then again, there is a stage. Basically, I'm a human, to be honest. So in that case, there was a down point because again, just imagine like you have that kind of degree. You're like, okay, and basically you were somewhere around there in your career path, and then right now you are just like, okay, you did study, and then now you are not working. You are just researching. So basically, you have second question. You second guess yourself. So that was the kind of stage where I was going in. Though I was like chunking out all the information. I was writing articles. I was sharing all the information. But at times, again, that kind of feeling comes in. So that I think that week was a slightly down week for me. And then the moment I saw that, like the whole tweet again, like what that joy kind of filled me in. And then again, like basically, I needed that. I got that at the right point of time, and then yeah, again, I from that time onwards, again, the whole research was like just booming. So I was very much interested.
That's awesome. So, what contribution? So that this is with regards to all the work that you did while you were still at the university, right? And once your research was completed, what more work have you been doing on the same topic?
So, so in that case, like earlier, the testing was on. So basically, what was there? So I forgot to tell one fact. Like the testing which I was doing during my college days was on a makeshift. Like I created a device on my own, which was based. So I got one of my friends from China, Cheng. He brought me like smartphone from China, which was like capable enough to handle all those kind of interaction. Where I created all my like prototypes and everything. So that was a
Right.
like prototype based version which I tested and everything. So after that, like once my like typeface, my college submission was done, everything was done. So I started collaborating with this one studio called Realities in London. So there I used to go because they provided me with the hardware so that I can check, okay, is the typeface really working, or is just like fluff building in my mind that, okay, I'm just like, okay, I've designed something. And then, but again, in that case, like it's the whole typeface is not just like some basic design changes. It's a functional typeface. And then that is one of the major reason I've not released it so far, because I want to satisfy myself like across different platforms though, so that it works. It doesn't work on just single type of headset, but it works across different type of headset. So my phase one was much more theoretical and prototyping and testing. The second phase is much more like testing the minute details and then how they perform on different headsets. So now it's like much more very kind of minute. And so this is, I would say, the basic initial part was theoretical research with practical application. Now whatever is happening is much more like functional based testing ground is happening. So yeah, which is slightly like right now also like do that like overtime whenever I'm getting time, basically on weekends.
Right. You started with the foundation and then you moved to the practical aspect of it, and then now you're scaling it up. So yeah, like really super excited for this. Like because I was looking for the research paper. I was assuming that since you've done your research, maybe it's been published anywhere, but I couldn't find it anywhere. I could only find your Medium articles.
So one of the reasons, so most probably I'll release the white papers after a bit of time once the basically I could verify all the test results from the, different headsets. So again, because this is one of, I think this is something which I'm not doing just academic research. I have to sell that typeface as well at a later stage. So basically, in that case, what I'm trying to do is whatever my claims are, I want to justify all those claims. I want to test all those claims, and then later once I release the typeface, before that, I think 1 month before I'll release the white papers and everything. And then so that, because in terms like that will become a marketing material for me as well. So in that case, like I have to plan, I'm just slightly trying to plan it that way so that it works, like both things work for me in a like proper manner, rather than like,
Right.
because if I do it right now, it's just like academic research. Somebody who does like academic research has published something. But again, I want to go with like, okay, this guy has published something, and then this is how he has created it. So I think in that case, whoever wants to come in. So one of the reasons, so I always believe in like giving out the information what I'm researching on, so that like, okay, if somebody is interested in typefaces for AR, then they have all the kind of basic ingredients to start with. and then once I release the papers, then they can totally refine it, because it's not one day project.
You're a strong believer of setting examples, setting working by examples. You're not just doing the research, but you're also going to be showing an example of this was the research regarding how typography in AR should be, and this is the a typography which I have created for AR, which I think you've named it as AR1. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So yeah, earlier I was thinking about like what should be the name. So basically, I'll tell you. So initial the name which I thought about was something like Gajanana, because it was my first typeface, and you do Shri Ganesh and everything. So basically, that was the thinking. But again, I was like,
Yeah.
since this is not going to be something like just, I'm not going to release just one typeface. Basically, AR1, what it has is basically I wanted to basically get like a quick reference in terms of it's related to augmented reality. So that's why AR. And then since what I have planned is like there will be multiple versions. So right now, first release would be AR1, which is like whatever the research has been done at that point of time. Because right now, just imagine this to be like, since AR industry is like going to develop in over the years. So basically, it would be the typeface which AR1 which I release, which will be based on whatever devices were like released earlier. So just imagine like if I'm releasing it in 2020, I've tested in devices before like 2020, so it works perfect in those cases. So I'm planning for AR2, AR3, all those versions.
Okay.
So that like again, that was the thinking behind like that name.
Right. That's very nice. Is there anywhere we can read about AR1 in detail?
So there is a bit of information which is available on my website only. I think it's in the research page. At the bottom of the page, there is a section about typeface design and where you can just visit the page. So it's already there.
Okay, awesome. And Nitish, what? So you've been working on this since so long, right? It's been, and you're still going on it, like working towards it. You're still pushing. And where do you feel, according to you, when do you feel this is going to become mainstream?
So are you talking about like the typeface or the use of typography in AR, or like basically when AR as a platform itself becomes mainstream?
Both, actually. Because once
Okay.
AR as a platform becomes mainstream, obviously there will be the requirement of a typeface.
So in this case, right now, to be honest, so a lot of my articles or my arguments, which I have been like, so recently I just presented this whole case of during Type Tech Munich, that why like the whole tech is so like 1990s, even though we have like developed a lot in terms of like your web application or any application like Figma or desktop based application. The kind of system which is there in like your basically gaming was the thing which is a gaming platform, the Unreal Engine, the Unity engine. So these are these are the softwares which you use to design for AR. And then right now the type base, the background tech which is there to implement typefaces is very primitive. So it's 1990s. The whole technology is living in 1990s. So basically, that is one of the reasons like why I have been pushing more towards like, okay, I want to get the backend also fixed before I just like design the typeface and release that. So I think I'm working on both spaces. And then to be honest, like if I see this, like I don't see this happening to be becoming mainstream in at least like 2 years. We have to give it to the whole AR space. VR is okay, VR is fine. So this is another thing which I'll slightly clarify at this point of time. Like my main like focus so remains in AR, augmented reality versus VR, because for me typographical challenges which are there are much more in AR. Because in AR what happens is there is ever changing background. You don't know like what the background is going to be when you are going to read the text. But in VR it's a bit similar. There is a functionality in terms of like, okay, there is a dimensionality which is coming in. But again, as a designer, whenever you are designing the experience, you know what background you're going to keep behind that text.
Right.
You know the color which is going to come there. So it's a scalable thing from your desktop version to designing to VR. But AR, you don't know. You're walking in your room, you don't know, like you're seeing your door is behind your, like you are seeing towards your TV, or you're seeing towards the door, then the background is changing. And then if you walk out, then there is brightness, there are much more challenges. So that's one of the reasons like why I consider AR to be much more problematic. And then much more, it has very high room of like different kind of innovations and kind of experiments. So yeah, that's one of the reasons. So that is one of the reasons it is going to take slightly more time, even like maybe right now, what my prediction is, there is like at least minimum 2 years to like 5 years for this to become mainstream.
Got it. Got it. Also, Nitish,
And
apart from working full time, working on typography in AR, you work on a lot of side projects as well. One of them being
yeah,
Ideal Reality. So, can you tell us more about what Ideal Reality is?
idea. So this is the first time I'm just like telling anyone the hidden agenda behind ideal reality. So basically, it was like, okay, if you talk about typography to any developer in the world who's working on augmented reality, so if you talk to them about typefaces and typography, the preference which they give to like typography is way down at the bottom, because for them like computing power has to go to like rendering whatever the graphics are there, whatever like
Right.
other like processes which are there. And then nobody cares about like, okay, putting more letters and then making letters like read better or something like that. Because right now people are struggling. So right now, you just imagine you have 100 blocks of like processing power. So they'll just give you two blocks max to max. And then in that case, like my whole idea was like, okay, since ideal reality is talking about the ideal cases of what the whole technology should look like, so I started. So basically, I have not plugged that in, but slowly, since I've started talking about major aspects, like which is like your accessibility to like what privacy issues and all those kind of things. So in that case, like slowly at a later stage, I want to plug in typography as well, because again, that falls under accessibility. So till the time I don't have a platform to say that, I don't have the platform to like explain those kind of things. So then I thought like, okay, because I was learning myself, and then I thought like, and I had to kind of see all over the places to see any information related to that. So and then I thought like maybe this will serve a purpose for me at a later stage, where I can plug in like typography there. But again, it will create a resource for newcomers or people who are interested in accessibility and privacy, and all the like basically like ideal application, how the whole, because right now the whole AR, the whole metaverse space is basically throwing in ideas, testing them, and then coming up whatever solutions are there. So right now it's in building. So if you kind of provide people with basic learning about those things, and so that it benefits, okay, it will benefit me at a later stage, but it benefits other people right now. And then what I have to do is at least like once a week or like twice a week, I have to spend time, because I read a lot of paper every day. Like morning, I start reading a lot of papers, and then basically what I have to do is on the papers I like, the content I like, I have to put it like on the website. That's the only thing which I have to do. And then, but what it is going to do is it is going to benefit other people. So I think that was a basic thinking, that how I started like building that up. Then yeah, that's how it is shaping.
That's really nice because it's like a really good place for everything AR, VR, XR, that is multiple experiences apart from 2D reality that we're already like interacting with and using. So everyone should definitely check that out. And Nitish, you also tweeted. So I follow you on Twitter a lot actually, and read a lot of your tweets and see what updates you keep coming with. One of them was that you mentioned you are going to be creating a typography online course. So can you tell us more about that and when is it coming out?
Yeah, cool. So in that case, like since the whole thing earlier, to be honest, I'll just also like, and this also has a background story. And most of my things have a background story. So earlier it was something like, so I wanted to create a residency, which is not possible at this point of time. So I wanted to create a 10-day residency, where I wanted to call my friends from across, like with whom I've studied, or the people from the industry, the major people I know, to come to India, and then just like, okay, just like teach people what typography is all about, because I see there is a huge gap like which is happening. So if you talk about like even small countries like Chile or like your Spain and all these small countries, they have so even they have small design colleges. They have very strong background in typography, but that is lacking. So even India. So I won't name the colleges, but again, the standard is okay, but again, it's not up to the global level. So that is the thing which I really wanted to cover. And then because of this whole COVID situation, then I thought like, okay, maybe that residency is not possible at this point of time. Maybe just like let's spend some time like creating a course. So in that case, like it's most probably like I will. So what I'm like trying my friends to just like get them on board to do like these online sessions, where it's almost like it's going to be a limited people's class. And then in that case, like I won't teach everything. I will teach the things I'm good at, and then rest, like I'll find all the people who are like people teaching in RISD and people teaching in colleges in Belgium and Copenhagen and all these like major colleges, Netherlands. And then like in that case, what happens is basically, so I want to get these people on board because in typography, so if there is one generalized teaching which happens, which I do, but again, there once you want to kind of get deeper into it, so then there are people who like specialize in certain kind of things. Some people like specialize in like long form content, how to design articles, how to set typography based articles in a better way. So these are to be honest, like the ace typesetting people. So I want to get those people to kind of teach people typesetting, and then I want to teach people who just like, okay, who focus on product design. So basically I would take up that product design module because I am product designer as well. So it's basically like finding right people for right component of typography so that they can elaborate on all those aspects. So I think that's the whole aim, like creating those modules. And then I'm slightly working on it. Slowly I think I'll release. I'm trying that I will do the first announcement like in maybe not September, August last week, hopefully, about like who all are going to be like part of that course.
Okay, nice. That's pretty soon actually. That's going to be looking forward to your announcement.
Cool.
Yeah. So Nitish, like you mentioned, how your plan is to propagate the typography knowledge more, right? So for someone who's just starting off and is interested in typography or wants to know more about it, how can they get started?
So I think in that case, so first is I think you can go through the articles if you are like very interested in typography for AR, because there is no one who's even like in a proximity who's working on it, because I know one person who's working on it, but that is more towards the expressive side, which is not like proper typography, because that's graphic design part. But in that case, like if you want to start, you can start with the articles I post, the information I'm posting, and then I unfortunately I can't tell you any other thing because it doesn't exist. And that's the same phase where like I started, like nothing was there. But again, you have starting point like from my articles, and then if you have any questions, anybody has any questions, they can just like totally like just ping me, and then I can answer those questions, to be honest. So I think I try to do one thing where I'm just like with my mailers, I'll just create one of the lists where it's almost like these. So basically how I did the cross referencing of articles in terms of like the industrial bit I was talking about and typographical bit. So I think I'll list those papers. I can share those papers with people that you can take reference from those. And then this is how I connected those. So I think basically that would slightly help. So I think, yeah, I'll note this down.
Can you also tell us about how to get started in typography in general as a beginner?
Okay, in that case, I think the online resources are one thing which I can't find right now. So I'll tell you the first book, really like which opened my mind. This is quite famous, I think, Thinking with Type. A lot of you might have, by Ellen Lupton. So that gave me like basic understanding of what type is and what kind of different applications which are there. So I think that's the like opening book, and then I have a list. I think that is coming in the resources section. That will be there. But again, I'll tell you a few books. Thinking with Type is really good, and then again you can go with Elements of Typography by Robert Bringhurst. So that is, again, I would consider that to be a Bible for whoever is getting into typography. So in that case, and then another like a basic fact which I want to like I explained right now, like one clarification which people get confused between, that there is a differentiation between typography and lettering. So if you are into lettering, then you like you pick up. It's better for you as well to just like read a bit about typography, like hardcore typography. Then it helps in terms of drawing letters. And then if you're just like typesetting, which is your like, even if you're typesetting for print or you're typesetting for your interfaces, in that case also like these books really help. So I think, yeah, these are the starting points. And then again, one really good resource which I think which is missing now is FontShop. FontShop is a foundry, and then it had a really great learning section which is not there. And then I credit that as like one of my inspiration points. But if you can just like try going back to like Wayback Machine and then finding their learning section, if that is possible, then that is a like their documents are pretty good. They had this whole like PDFs which taught like different concepts in a very like refined way. So I think that is one good thing. And then you have to be very, in this case, slightly be um, very picky about where you choose your references in terms of typography, learning from whom, learning from where. Because, and so I'll tell you what happens is, one is a person who's very hardcore. So this, I don't want to undermine anyone, but again, this is basically for learners, because you might get confused with a different kind of terminology or something like that. So in that case, I think it would be much more better towards going, start with the hardcore thing, where because that will bring you closer to what the right terminology is, what the right facts are, and what the right things are. Because so even whatever I teach, so I always do this disclaimer that okay, this is the right thing, okay, this is what I learned, here I have broken the rule. And then because a lot of people, what with this I have like recognized over different. So what I also do, because I am designing my own course, then I look at other people teaching it, and then I see there are certain flaws which happens. And then because some people are just like, okay, they learned it from somewhere else, and then there is a gap which is happening. And then because and then another thing which is like personal preferences come in. So you have to
Right.
like slightly stay away from those personal preferences, and then you have to find the right sources, and then go, and then you have to basically review, see, read the reviews, or ask people that if that is a good source to refer to. And then another book I got reminded is Details in Typography. So
Nice.
I think, yeah.
Yeah. That's quite extensive, actually. That's a lot of things for someone who wants to get started. But definitely, I feel this is this would be very comprehensive as well for anyone who wants to get started and wants to know exactly what to refer to.
I just want to add one thing which I got reminded.
Yeah.
So recently, Fonts, my Fonts is sending an emailer. So one is their like promotional emailer. There is another is educational bit, which I think if I think I would recommend it to the listeners that just subscribe to those updates. And then I think it's like FYI or FYTI, something like that, which in which they kind of pick up one topic, and then like I think it's weekly or by monthly, something like that, and then they send you updates. I think that would be another good starting point for you.
Definitely, definitely.
Sorry, you were saying something.
Yeah, and so I was saying it's been great knowing your journey, and you've done so much when from starting off with the engineering and then working freelance and remotely, and then going for a design degree and then doing a master's in a design degree, and then while you're working full time as a product designer, you're also working towards typography for the future. So, in your entire journey, if I had to ask you what are your top three learnings, what would they be?
I think I would not relate this to basically my basically just design, but one thing I have realized, like so this would be my one of my major mistake and major thing, where it's almost like initially, like when I was in NIF, so I used to be like very much focused on like learning and then just doing what I like. So basically my philosophy was, if your work is great, if you like, if you do the best thing, then people will recognize you for that. But that is something which doesn't happen. So because for recognition, you need to have like basically you have to promote that whole thing. You have to be like social with people, at least people. So basically if you're a great designer, okay, you're working but nobody knows about you, then what's the point? Then there is like basically one, you get satisfied that I'm doing the great work. But if you're like more people should learn from me, in that case, like that whole thing comes from like basically socializing, like talking to people, and then like having conversations with them. So this is something like, okay, if you're talking, if you're just thinking like talent will take you to whatever, to the, it is a path to success, I would say it's a path to success. But again, in that case, you also have to work on recognition. You have to also work on basically one of the major things, which is your networking. So basically, and this is another thing, I think I can just give you an example why it works is basically why basically a lot of people have this understanding that attending conferences, attending like your basically events which happen here and there is a waste of time. It's waste of money or something like that. So most of these events are not for like basically learning something there. It's more about so knowing the right people. So okay, I might have met you during a conference. Okay, Mayank does this, and then he's that guy. And then if I'm working on that, like I'll share with you. So in that case, now you know, okay, there is a person called Nitish who kind of does this thing. And then again, in this case, like one is physical space, second is your social media space, where you have to be active. You have to talk to people. You have to like get into conversation, have discussions. So that in that case, like then you got to know basically, if you're talking about us, then we kind of connected over social media. And I think that's the space where you have to get into it. And then just don't think like, okay, I'll just keep my head down, and then I'll just like one day like it will blow over, that my work will blow. Because in that at the end, some people, this is a mistake a lot of people I've seen doing. They do great work, they don't post it anywhere, and then nobody knows about, like, there is a really amazing person there. So they might get hired by one person who knows them, but that person is keeping it to themselves.
Right,
So I think
absolutely.
that's one of the main things.
Okay, so that's what. So what about the other two things, bro?
So yeah, second, I think another, I think I won't relate it to basically just design, but a general thing where it's almost like a lot of people compare themselves. So basically, that okay, he's the guy he who did this in this point of time. Okay, just imagine like if I'm taking somebody's case, like that guy, he's graduated out of college, like, and then just after that he became a sensation or something like that. So sometimes like those things, those exceptions happen, but a lot of people like you're basically what I'm talking about, you don't know the background story, what I had to go through to reach at that level, or to kind of become what I am. I have sacrificed like basically my social life, or I have done that. So in that case, like if you're balancing, so one good part is just imagine like, so I'll just make you feel better. Okay, in this case, like if you are a person, like if you graduated in this point quickly, and then you didn't get a job at a great place, in that case, like what you did was you were learning, and then you were enjoying with your friends. Whereas what I did was so I will call myself a loser, it's fine. So in that case, like okay, I was a loser who was just like sitting there in my room learning, and then doing all those things. So it's not about like, don't compare yourself to anybody else who's like everybody's learning path is different, everybody's understanding or the way of learning is different, and then the experiences which they have learned from is again different. So you where it might happen is the thing where I might have reached from A to B in just like 1 year. But from my from B to C, it might take me 10 years. But for you, it might take like maybe you have taken like from A to B like 3 years. But again, by that time you was learning much more than me, and then you can just take just 1 year to just go from B to C. So in that case, like journeys differ from person to person. So don't be sad about anything, just like focus on what you are doing, just learn whatever you like.
Yeah, I was going to ask you the question that what advice do you wish you had received when you were starting off, and I feel you've covered that as well. Or is there anything that you would want to add?
I think that is something I people have asked me, but again, this is that is my biggest regret, because if somebody would have told me that your hard work or just your talent doesn't take you to whatever place you want to be in, you have to know the right people, you have to be at the right place. And this is one of the things which I really want you to know. And this is again, this I got to learn when I was in Reading, because I was meeting, so I was attending conferences across Europe, and then I was meeting people. So in that case, like what it did for me was like when I needed help, or when I needed, okay, can you just like review this, like I'm doing this, then because I had chat with that person in person at that conference or something like that, in that case, like it helped me, because now cold messaging works for at sometimes. But again, the moment I know like I have met Mayank in a certain conference, or like I have met him somewhere, and then I know him through a friend. So in that case, like that increases your like basically the in this case, like just imagine I'm working on a project, I will take 10 days to complete that project on my own. But if I can just ask one person who's experienced in that, I can complete that project in just 2 3 days. Because the thing which I will do by hit and trials in 5 days, I will just get that advice by asking a single question from that right person.
Right. This is great advice. This interview also has been great, Nitish. Like there are so many things which I will also after this interview definitely check it out and try to acknowledge despite whatever research I could do. But this has been super insightful. Thanks a lot, Nitish. For this brings us to the end of our interview. Would love to know what your experience was and what are your final words.
Yeah, I think I loved it, man. And the whole conversation, even like basically these kind of conversation, because these are like very genuine questions which you don't think yourself. So I think I have a much more revelations for me as well, which I have to think about, like how I have to chart my path. So I think it's basically the way it's a learning for you, it's a learning for me, and then I'm really thankful for that. Thanks, man.
Thanks for listening to this episode, and I hope you liked it. If you watched the entire video, drop a comment below sharing your favorite learnings from this interview to let us know. Subscribe to the Whiteboard.fm YouTube channel to check out other episodes and clips from this interview. This podcast is a part of the 10K Designers Network. You can check out other projects on 10kdesigners.com.